Hello everyone, this is Sarah from Crafting and Relaxing, and I'm coming back to you with another video for beginners working on the single layer card series. So if you were looking for some sort of new information, I don't know for sure if it will be here for everyone, but there's always great tidbits. So I don't know, sometimes I choose videos by subject, but sometimes it's just somebody that always has good ideas, so I like to listen to them. I don't know if I'm one of those people, but you guys can tell me. Okay, so I have an 8.5 by 11 piece of cardstock. This is a little bit unusual because it's the basil marshmallow paper, so they put their branding thing at the end. Most people don't do that with an 8.5 by 11. So first I'm going to cut the paper down so that it's a normal 8.5 by 11. I'm just going to set it on my cutter, go to 11 inches, and then cut it right up there. Okay, in the last video, I mentioned that in an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, you could cut it at 5.5 and do 2 horizontal cards, or you could cut it at 4.25 on the short side and have 2 top fold cards. Today, I'm going to use a Stampendous stamp set, and I'll hold it up so that you can see the stamps that are on here. I already took them apart. This would be an example of a stamp set that's still available online. If you Google for Stampendous SSC112, it'll pop right up. It's still available on Amazon and some other places. And these are clear stamps. So in the last video, I used wood mount stamps. So these come in a cellophane package, and they have 2 layers. Let me show you one that's still on the package that we're not using today. So here's a swirl stamp. So they're in here, and you open this up, and you peel this off, and it kind of feels like you're gonna rip it, but you're not. You're just gonna take it right off. And then you have to attach it to a clear block that you purchase separately. So typically you'll have 3 to 5 clear blocks. Sometimes you would like more. And then you mount your stamps on there. And it's as easy as I just set the stamp down, like I wouldn't normally hold it up to the camera and carry it around. I set it down, and then this one's big, but just since it's in my hand, and I just grab that stamp firmly, and that's it. It's ready for use. That's all you do. So if you want to see that again, and then you clean them, and then you peel them off and stick them back in that packaging. So in this instance, this one's pretty big. I'm going to put it down, and I'm putting it down stamp side, and you'll be able to feel the difference. This side is super smooth. And then mine has a grid on it so you can line it up. This one, it doesn't matter, but for example, on the Thanks a Bunch, I did try and line it up straight. And then you just lift that up. This is a big stamp, so it's stuck itself down. And then it's ready to go. So it's the same idea as a wood-mounted stamp like we used in the last video, but these are more popular now. They take up much less storage space. You can take 10 sets of stamps to a girls' beach weekend with you and you're not breaking your back. There's a bunch of advantages. Lining them up is easier. The disadvantage is if you're like me and you haven't purchased enough of the acrylic blocks, when you go to do a whole bunch of stamping, you don't have enough blocks. So I've set up intentionally the 3 blocks in advance with 3 different sizes, and that gives me some options, but this is all the blocks, so we're only going to use 3 stamps. Otherwise, you really need to clean them before you take them off. Otherwise, it turns into a mess on your hands, so it's a little tricky to be switching mid-card. There are other options. There are stamp platforms and different things, but I am trying to keep this in the context of a beginner, okay? But faced with it, you'll probably buy clear stamps. That's the way the world is going, and there are different types of clear stamps. Some are very inexpensive Dollar Tree. and some are very detailed and a different kind of plastic that's a little more expensive. I have both kinds and enjoy them. Just don't go crazy just because you see stamps that are less expensive, because there are differences in the plastic and how they hold the ink and that kind of thing. Okay, that's for another day. Now we're all set. Because I have a vertical image, this time, also to show you something different, I'm going to cut the cardstock at 4 1/4. So I'll make 2 cards. They'll be the exact same size as the other cards we made in the last video. So we would use the same envelopes, but I'm not sure this is totally square. There we go. But they will be top folding, okay? So let me show you. And I'm going to use my EK Tools scoreboard. And if you saw the last video, you don't have to have one. The world doesn't come to an end. It's just nice. So it's 11 inches long. So I need to score it at 5 1/2. So it's the same numbers that you would use if you were making a horizontal card and going the other way. You're just using them in a different sequence because you're cutting at one and scoring at the other. Okay. Okay, there we go. And a little cat hair. So top folding, see the difference? Same exact size. Let me grab one. Here we go. Same exact size as our last cards. They're just folding a different way. You could also make, sometimes I make cards that open up this way, so the image would be stamped the same, but it would go to the left. So if you wanted to cut all of your cards in this style because you like it better and make a bunch of card bases in advance, they still both work for everything. It's just purely a matter of preference or habit. For me, it's more habit than preference. I don't even think about it. Okay, I'm gonna tell you right now, big stamps are harder to work with. So this is going to be a harder stamp for me to stamp with and talk. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put a cup on this just to hold this down so it's not moving around and try and fold. And this would be a harder stamp for you to learn with than smaller stamps that we were playing with in the other video. So first I'm just looking to be sure that stamp is on there all the way because I did take it off. Yeah, it looks fine. So I'm gonna ink up the whole thing. And you'll notice that when I have a very large stamp, I take the ink pad to the stamp, not the stamp to the ink pad. And I don't rub it, I just pat it. And on these clear stamps, you can look very easily and see if you've gotten the ink everywhere. And you want to be careful that you're not making a ridge right up the middle of your flower or anything like that. So you want to cover the whole thing, but not necessarily in a super geometric, organized way. Now, I have a butterfly. I haven't used this stamp set before either, so I'm sort of winging it. Okay, I have a butterfly and a thanks a bunch. So what I'm thinking is, okay, first of all, remember what I said about practice with a stamp? I don't think this stamp is brand new. It's just that I haven't used it before. Okay, it looks like it inks beautifully. Okay, so I'm gonna ink it up again. Some stamps, especially the clear ones, the less expensive ones that are made out of silicone, you can tell the difference because they'll be about $7 a set. That's a bargain. So if the retail price on one is $7, it's silicone, not photopolymer. And I find that some stamps don't take the ink quite as well, but I'm I'm still a little bit new at clear stamps, so I'm learning too. I'm going to put this bag under here, but I need to remember this ink doesn't dry super fast, so that part is probably still wet. But what I want to do is give myself enough room for a butterfly and a sentiment. And I don't mind if the stems go off the edge a little, or even if the leaves do. Okay, so I just rest it down. That's the most important thing. And clear stamps work a little bit better for videos because you can see more of what's going on. So it's clear, I'm resting it down. I'm stamping on a Tim Holtz glass media mat. It's tempered glass, it's completely smooth. That is super important. You need a Formica countertop that's perfectly smooth, or, you know, granite. It has to be smooth, it can't be tile. And those Costco tables that I love so much to work on, you cannot get a decent stamped image on the top of one of those. You have to get up and go to the kitchen counter or something. Or you can work on your really nice wood table, but be careful if you do. Okay, so I've let it sit there plenty long, and I've pushed down, given it good pressure while we're talking. So then the trick is to lift straight up, not rock it, not bounce it around, and hold the paper down. There we go. So I have, it looks like a tiny tip right there that I didn't get. I can finish that with a black pen if I want. I'm not sure yet if I do. And because I'm still showing different ideas for beginners, I'm going to go ahead and stamp this in black, because I'm assuming you don't have a bunch of ink pads. But keep in mind that you can stamp your sentiments in any color you want. It doesn't always have to be black. So there we go. You could use a color that was on your butterfly somewhere, or in your flowers, or if you only have one pink pad and one black pad, then you can use pink for all your sentiments. Okay, then same thing, I just lift up. That is a gorgeous stamp. That's a really nice image. Okay, then I'm gonna bring in a butterfly right here. You know, I don't really like the angle of the butterfly. And I don't think I want to color it. Lazy, huh? Oh, it's super cute though. Okay, not for today. Not for today. So we'll just go with the two stamps. I think if I was going to bring in the butterfly, I might have gone from a different angle. Put the thanks a bunch over here, just because of the way this butterfly is angled. Okay. So put your ink pad away. That's the best thing I can teach you. And then I'm going to take this away because we know it has wet ink on it. And I'm going to wipe my stamps real quick, because this ink pad does not dry very quick, and I don't want to make any messes. I am just using a rag with water on it. If you have baby wipes, work great. They're on my list because I don't have any. I only need baby wipes for certain inks, and these inks clean up really well. So a damp rag is fine for these, but baby wipes work great for thicker other types of inks. And some people have a stamp cleaner. I don't have a stamp cleaner. I haven't had one in years. Okay, so what I have here, in the last video, I stamped and used colored pencils. And what I have here, let's let this dry while I talk a little, is alcohol markers. These are Spectrum Noir. If you're not familiar with alcohol markers, these are not, they're by no means the most expensive. These were an experiment that I did, and if you want to see more videos on these, you can go back and look. I purchased these because they weren't very expensive, and I like them, but they're probably a little bit beyond my skill level as far as blending colors, and they're super inky, which is great for artists, but maybe not so good when you're trying to color in a specific flower. I also have some other ones, and I might use some of these in orange. I really like these, but I don't have very many colors in them. But interestingly enough, I do have orange. And if we're doing some kind of sunflowery thing, oh, and green, so we could do stalks. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna test my marker colors on the same paper. So sometimes, okay, that's kind of barfy. The colors are gonna look different on different, oh, that's just a darker barf, on different papers. So I didn't like that. So let's see how this one looks. Okay, this one is much better as far as an actual yellow goes. And I've chosen, hopefully, the right ink pad for coloring in with alcohol markers. As I mentioned before, when you're coloring with markers, you want to be really careful that you're reading your ink to make sure. Otherwise, your black ink will spread. And it might not do it instantly. You might spend time on your image and then it sort of bleeds or feathers when you're not looking. So if I touch up this petal right here with a black pen, I'm gonna do it at the very end when I'm done because I don't have a black pen that I think will stand up to these markers and I don't want it to smear. So I just wanted to let you know. Okay, so for now, I'm just laying down this light color. It's sort of an orangey yellow. It's more orange, but it's better than the barfy yellow or gold. I have some sort of unusual colors in this marker pack right here. Okay, now I'm gonna take, let's see, ooh, that's pretty bright. They weren't kidding. Oh, this one will be good. And then I'm just going to take a little bit of this and come back in. And you can see this is, I like markers because I think they're faster than colored pencils. And they're a little bit brighter. But some flowers or some sentiments maybe are better for colored pencils. Or maybe just sometimes your mood. I don't necessarily have a favorite medium that I always like to use. Okay, so now the idea of alcohol markers is that you can blend them. So you can put the orange and the yellow together and I should be able to blend out those harsh lines. So I'll get some depth of orange, but you won't see exactly where I put my pen when I'm done. And again, I'm not going to color every flower on this card because I want to keep these beginner videos in real time and not speed it up so you get an idea of how long things take and you can see every detail that goes wrong. Okay. So there you go. Just brought in some orange and left it with the yellowy. Now I think I have a couple areas out here on the edge where I'd like a little more and I can just layer some more on top of that. I can also take, I want to make sure I have these in the right order because the other one's super orange. I can also take some of this one and come back in. So it's introducing a third orange that's not exactly the same and filling the places where I didn't hit it with the stripe coming out. Okay, now in the middle, I think I'm going to use, just because I don't have a lot of different colors. Let's see what this looks like, but I have some concerns about, ooh. Okay, I'm gonna try this, and if it's horrible, these are alcohol markers, so we can blend it out. So they have a smaller nib tip, and then they have this giant one, which I always think, why would I need that? Well, today I know. Okay, it's not terrible. And I think there might be, if I wanted to make them like cone flowers, there might be one, ooh, in here that's dark enough that I could make like a plum color with it. Maybe next time. That's gonna be a lot of work. I don't love the sound of those either. Okay, so on that one, yeah, I grabbed the darker one on accident with alcohol markers. That's fine. You just pick up the lighter one, blend it, and they're still drying, so you can't see exactly how it'll look, but you get the idea. Now, in one of these are numbered, and the darker colors have higher numbers. So I'm just gonna come in here, and I'm not gonna worry about shading on these stems at all, because I really only have one green that I trust, and I don't want to bring in one that's like pine dark or neon. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll finish coloring in those flowers, probably do a little more shading on them, and then that'll be it for this card. It'll be done, and it's pretty cute. The other thing you can think about in your house and as you're learning is, and not necessarily just shopping for everything, is do you have some ribbon? Because this card would be pretty cute with a bow tied and glued right here, or a ribbon wrapped around and then a bow right here. And if you don't have any ribbon, don't worry about it. It'll be just fine the way it is too. As I mentioned on my blog, if you like to stamp on the insides, oh, do you see that? Totally forgot about that. Okay, alcohol markers, you can't do that because they bleed through. So what I need to remember is I don't make single layer cards typically, so I'm out of practice on them. So what I need to remember is that on single layer cards, I have to think about my products more. So keep that in mind. If you have Sharpies around your house, those won't work for single layer cards either. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna trim this out, and then I'll put it on another card base, so it'll be fine, and it won't be trashed, but it won't be a legitimate single layer card. So on that note, let's remake it, and we'll use colored pencil. And this time, I'll lay it out differently and use the butterfly. I mean, we're here, let's do it. Okay, so we have our other piece of cardstock right here, and I'm just gonna go old school and fold it right in half because I have so much stuff on my table that I don't want to clear it for my scoreboard. Okay, so because big stamp, I'm going to do the same thing again. This is just a mug with a whole bunch of pens in it, nothing fancy. And I'm going to put this one over here, and I will still finish it and mount it on a card back and put a picture of it online, but you will know the truth. Maybe I won't. Maybe I won't blog about it. I'll just put it on Instagram. Okay, I'm going to do this quickly. I think when you're learning, it's really good to see the same stamps repeated anyway. I just didn't know if you'd want to see the same exact card again, but you should see it done right once. So remember that alcohol markers do bleed. There aren't a lot of products in paper crafting that people sell you that bleed through. Okay, now, so let's make sure this should be dry because it took me long enough. Now, I can see a little bit of inconsistency right here in the middle that I'm sure you wouldn't be able to see on video. So I'm gonna hit it again. And then I'm gonna come in a completely different angle, just for fun. Same idea, let it sit there. In fact, I can ink this one up. With a giant block like that, and such a big stamp, the block itself probably does more work than I do. Okay, and then I need to lift it straight up and get that paper to let go of it. Oh, that's cute. Okay. And I got a little on the block. That's okay. The world doesn't come to an end. I have a lot of pet hair in my stuff too. And I'm gonna put this butterfly right here. Same thing, hold it down, lift straight up. And I wanna be sure I get a nice dark stamp. And on a little tiny saying like this, on a big block, you have to be especially careful because it really needs a small, skinny block. So you don't wanna rock it back and forth. Because if you rock it, you're gonna get the ridges around the edge. There we go. And let's wipe these down real quick. I'm not good about cleaning my stamps typically, but when I borrow stamps, I like to clean them. And if you let it sit, like the permanent ink, if you get it on your block and you leave it on there, it'll stay on there. My blocks have ink on them. Okay, there we go. Now we know that it's not quite dry. We also seem to have had a dog hair or something in there. And I used the Stampin' Up! Pencils in the last video. So for this one, I'm gonna use Prismacolors. Maybe there's a set in your household or your circle of friends that you can get your hands on. They're also not very expensive if you don't buy hundreds of them. This is a 24 pack. You could get it at Michael's. I think a coupon would work with it. You can get it online. Or maybe you just have a friend that doesn't use it every minute of the day. Okay, so on these, I think I'm gonna do cone flowers. And I want some purple and yellow. So I'm gonna take these. And Prisma's, the color goes down a little faster than the Stampin' Up! Ones. But still, I'm not gonna color. I should have actually done a smaller flower. I'm not gonna color this whole flower while you're waiting and watching. And I always have, you see, I always have a scratch piece of paper over here because I like to test the colors before I put them on the item, especially with those Spectrum Noir markers, because those are much different than I expect them to be, almost all the time. And if you've watched my other videos, you know that I am not, nor do I claim to be, a coloring expert. But I am starting to actually not hate it, so that seems like an improvement. And different paper takes different color and different products differently, so that's something to keep in mind as you change things a little bit and try different things. And you can see with markers, I don't have the skills to get as much variation in color yet. I also don't have enough markers. Those alcohol markers are quite expensive. They're more than $1 a piece. $2 a piece. It's not uncommon for one alcohol marker, to cost like $5, $7 even for the Copic markers. So I think that's part of it. And I had some Crayolas, but I didn't really use those. But a lot of people who have more coloring skills than me do use them. Okay. Not all of these are sharpened yet. That's funny. I was going to, on this one, I was going to stamp the sentiment on the inside just so you could see. Because I write so big, I don't often decorate on the inside. If you like to stamp on the inside, you could easily put your sentiment right here in the middle or up at the top. However you want to do it. You could even stamp it right here, however you want to do it. I typically leave room to write here because I write pretty large. Sometimes I'll put a little stamp off to the corner or something like that. But however you want to do them. The other thing that's fun when you're making your own cards is to decorate the back a little bit. You can get a little stamp with your name, or if you have a cute little heart stamp and you want to stamp on the back when you're sending it to somebody. Okay, so you can see how I'm layering up the color. Prismacolors really let you do that, whereas some other colored pencils, that's not so much an option. So it starts out a little bit flat and the pale yellow, and then I'm layering the brighter orangey yellow on top of it. And then if it gets too orange, I can mix back in some yellow. Okay, just gives you an idea. And then let's hit that butterfly. If you've watched very many of my videos, you know we're gonna need a little blue. So, since I haven't used this stamp before, I think some orange would be good because we'll bring in some of this bright orange on the flowers. Oh yeah, we need some of this orange on the flowers too. And then some on the butterfly. I don't really know how to color the other side of it. I'm a little confused by it. We'll just pretend. And sometimes when I'm coloring, I grab the wrong color when I'm trying to do the other side, and we just roll with it. And how about a little touch of yellow on this guy? You can tell I know a lot about butterflies. Just to show you, I'm gonna take, before I wrap it up, I'm gonna take a little bit of this, not even on every petal, but a little bit of this orange that's on the butterfly, and just bring it into this flower a little bit. So when you see the final picture of this, it'll, I'll definitely post it on Instagram. I'm not sure if I'll do a blog post on this video. We'll see how the week goes. You'll see a lot of different colors and it'll kind of layer up different, and you just know that I just played with it until I was happy with how it looked, okay? Different layers and darker and lighter. And on the stems in here, I probably will use every green in this package because I can always change it. With Prismacolors, if you put a color down and you don't like it, here we go. Here's an example. So it's a pretty bright stem. Then I can take this dark green and I can layer it on top of it and change the color a little. And I just went out of the lines, but that's okay because we have an eraser right here. And it's not the actual Prismacolor eraser because I don't know where that is right now. Okay. But that just gives you an idea. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you learned a lot from my alcohol marker usage on a single card, so don't do that. And then saw the variety of look you can get with the same stamp set. So again, if this was the only stamp set you had, you could just ink thanks and do a row of thanks. You could, I'll have to show you that at some point. You can take markers and just ink one flower on your stamp, Do not try and do that with alcohol markers. They have to be water-based markers. All these will do is stain your stamps and not actually work for your project, so you'll be annoyed that you took the time to color it. Just think about how you could use the same stamp set in different ways. You could take this big stamp, stamp it all the way around here a couple times, and then in the middle, write thanks. So it doesn't have to be just the way the stamp set was sold every time. The other thing you can do is if you have a stamp set, you can, in Google, type in the stamp set name, and then instead of clicking like you're gonna purchase it, watch and click the Images tab, and you can see all sorts of ways that that stamp set has been used. That does not work excellently for something that just came out last month, but this set's been out for a couple years, so it would work great. Thanks so much for watching, and please click the subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner to continue to get my videos. Thanks, and have a great day.